Kaitlyn Gonzalez.
And I'm Emma Gallagher.
And you're watching
Five Questions. Today we were lucky enough to interview Arbender Robinson, the 10-time Broadway star.
He came to our school to talk to us, and here's what he has to say. Question number 1. How do you deal with rejection?
Here's the thing. The first thing that I do is I have to remind myself that I'm a product. And the people behind the table or the directors or the producers have to decide if they want to buy my product or not. Rejection initially has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my talent, nothing to do with what I did in the audition room, but it has to do with whether or not they want to buy the product that I'm selling. So if I'm tied with Bleach Alternative, that's what I always say, then they can decide if they want it. If they want to go with Cheer or Bounty or Downy or not wash their clothes at all, then they're not going to purchase me. However, on the other half of that, I have to be sure that when I go into the audition room, that I'm 100% prepared. So that when I leave, if I get rejected, the rejection has nothing to do with my lack of preparation or my lack of knowledge of the material, or I went in there not giving 100% of what I have at that time. I'm short, I'm African American, I'm thin most of the time, and I'm a tenor. If they want someone tall with light skin who's a bass, that's not me. That has nothing to do with me. I can't change those things. So you just have to realize what your talent is, what your product is. Then when I leave the audition room, I know that I did what I'm supposed to do. I gave them the option of purchasing my product, and if they don't want it, they don't want it, and it has nothing to do with me, and I can't change that.
Question number 2. How do you stand out in a Broadway audition?
A Broadway audition or any audition, they're kind of the same thing. So how does one stand out in an audition? The first thing you have to do is your homework before the audition. So know what you're auditioning for, who you're auditioning for, what's required of you in that show. Then you have to know something else, and this is going to sound super cliche, but you kind of have to know who you are as a person. Because when you go in that audition room, you have to put 100% of yourself on the table for them to see, and you can't go in trying to be someone else or something else. If I go into an audition saying, okay, Kristen Chenoweth played this role, so I'm going to be Kristen Chenoweth. If they wanted Kristen Chenoweth, they would hire Kristen Chenoweth. They're looking for you. So you have to bring yourself to the table, and if you can be yourself in the audition room and bring 100% of yourself to that audition, then you're going to stand out because you're not trying to be Billy or Bob who are on the other side of you, or you're not trying to be someone who played the role before you did, but you're just bringing yourself to that table. So how do you stand out in an audition for anything, whether it's Broadway or not, is you have to be yourself, do your homework, do your preparation, and bring 100% of yourself to that audition room. And I guarantee you will stand out.
Question number 3. What is the most common mistake an actor makes to prevent success?
Okay, so the first thing is that we have to define what success is. Because if success is something that's financial, that's very, very different from an artistic success where you're discovering something in your artistic craft. Before I do anything, I have to be able to answer 3 questions. What will it do for my pocketbook? Because that's a form of success. What will it do for my career? And what do I have to learn from the project, or what will it do for me personally? I have to answer those questions first. And if I can answer those questions successfully in a positive way, then it's already a successful venture. So I think the first thing that people do that stops them from achieving success is they haven't figured out what their success is for that obstacle or that task. And then I think the other thing is that you have to measure your success with yourself and not against anyone else. I've done 10 Broadway shows. I've never done television. So if my goal was to do television, then I'm not successful. However, to someone else, I'm extremely successful because I've done 10 Broadway shows. For me, success has to do with the project itself. So what does it do for my pocketbook? What do I have to learn from it? And what will it do for my career? I answer those 3 questions, and then it's success.
Question number 4. What is the schedule for a Broadway performer, and how does one deal with it?
This is a great question. So what is the schedule for a successful Broadway performer, and how does one deal with the schedule? Let me say this, first of all. The schedule is extremely difficult. A typical day for me, which may not be the typical day for everyone else, but my typical day normally starts at about 6 a.m. I get up, I warm up, I look over any material that I have for auditions that day. I'm on a train to the city. I'm auditioning all day. And I'm lucky because I'm currently in a Broadway show. So then at about 6 o'clock, I have to be at that show. Show starts at 7. I'm done with that show by 10. I'm on a train by 10:45. I'm home by 12:45. I'm in bed by 1 in the morning. And then I do it again the next day. Now, that schedule changes if you are creating a new show. So right now, I'm in the process of creating a new show. So I get up at the same time. I may have an audition early in the morning, and then from about 10 a.m. until about 6 p.m., I'm in rehearsal all day. So rehearsal ends at 6. By 6:05 or 6:30, I'm at the theater preparing for the show, do the show at 7 o'clock, and then the tail end of the day is still the same. That's that schedule. If you are in tech rehearsals for a show or previews for a show, you then will rehearse from about 10 a.m. until about midnight, and then you go home, sleep for a few hours, and then get up. So how does one deal with that schedule? The first thing for me, I'm great at taking naps. I can take a nap anytime, anywhere, any place. So if I look at my watch and I say, oh, we're on a 10-minute break, I will take a 10-minute nap. Or I have an hour train ride, I will secure my things close to my body and take an hour nap on the train. But it's a lot about time management. It's a lot about understanding your body and knowing what your body can and cannot do. And you just have to realize that if you're doing this for a living, you're making a commitment to this art form and a commitment to this craft, and that becomes your entire lifestyle. So I don't really know that there's a set schedule. My schedule right now is pretty hectic, but I think you're married to your art. You're married to your craft. So any and everything that you do directly reflects what you can do in your craft. So I guess it's a 24-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week, more time on holidays, and that's the schedule.
Question number 5. What is the biggest difference between doing theater in high school and theater on Broadway?
Okay, I'm so excited that you asked this question, and I'll probably answer it in a way that's too excited to actually put on film. But here's the deal. The biggest difference between doing theater in your community theater or at home or at school and on Broadway really is the paycheck and how people respond to you when you leave the stage door. Outside of that, the only thing that's different is that those people who are on Broadway train a little bit longer and train a little bit harder. And this is where I get really excited because although I love being on Broadway and I love being a performer, I actually like teaching and training people more because I truly believe that anyone can do what we do. We just have to have the right resources. And anyone can do what we do if they understand the psychology behind creating those characters. That all sounds really, really difficult and really, really crazy and hard to maneuver, but I will take any student. I don't care what your background is. I can take you and I guarantee that I can make you an actor because we'll sit down, we'll look at a scene, and we'll break it down bit by bit, right? We break it down in a really, really fun way, an exciting way, and then I take all of that mysteriousness, if that's a word, about theater and all of the intrigue and all the things that we think make doing theater difficult, and I put it in simple terms so that you understand it. And I do this with actors who are just beginning, and I do this with actors who have been performing for years and years and years, and I coach actors when they're going into auditions, and then all of a sudden something happens where behind the audition table, the producers say, oh my goodness, that was so real, or that was so great, or you brought a whole new level to it, right? Or I take the obvious, see how excited I am? I take the obvious choice and then I flip the obvious choice on its head, right? We can be doing a scene from Medea, which is a tragedy, and I'll help you first find the comedy in that scene, and then it's gonna make your performance that much better. So I'm shaking. I get more excited about teaching than I do about actually performing on Broadway, and then my teaching techniques help you excel in the audition room, which is why I book all these shows, right? Which is why I get called in to do all these shows. So I would say the biggest difference is the paycheck and how people react because they yell at the scream door and you get a bigger paycheck, and the training that people put into their craft. And once you understand that training, then I truly believe that you can conquer Broadway or you can conquer any other task or any other form of the arts that you want to dive into because you have that right training and you have that right that correct thought process to get you through that. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm super duper excited. If it answers your question, then come and train with me, and then you can see me be this excited in the training room as well. So that's the answer. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Arbender Robinson for coming today and answering our questions.
And if you have any more questions or would like to get in contact with him,
You can visit his website at arbender.com.
see you next time on
5
Questions.
Questions.